The first question: how have recent historical events affected the course of research in organizational psychology? Give an example of an event and the resulting outcome. Um, so, when I think about historical events and organizational psychology research, my mind kind of goes to workplace violence incidents that obviously has a long history. Um, and then you kind of look in the 1980s during the modern time, where you see workplace shootings and domestic disputes happening in the workplace. But then you fast forward to 9/11 and a mass casualty event that affects thousands of people in their workplace. And then fast forward to a more recent event of the COVID-19 pandemic, and something that our modern workforce had never faced before. And during the pandemic, there was work shutdowns, and then for places that were still operating, there was a shortage of employees, and it just really changed the landscape of the workforce in many different scenarios, and it affected services being provided to customers. So you saw different acts of, I'm going to say, workplace violence. I think there were over 400 incidents reported during the pandemic of some type of workplace violence, whether it was a disgruntled employee or whether it was a customer acting out toward a service provider. There was just a lot of kind of new scenarios taking place, and it was unprecedented in a time, again, like we had never faced with our modern workforce. So I think organizational psychology researchers had to adjust maybe the way they were researching, because there was a need to get information out and really look at this information. And fortunately, in modern times, we have readily available information to look at through media and social media channels that allows researchers to quickly gather information on what's happening, where it's happening, why it's happening, and quickly put together information. So organizations like NEOSH or OSHA can gather this information, analyze this information, and then put out guidance in a quicker manner to help organizations create a safer, physically safe and more psychologically safe workplace during the pandemic, but then also moving out of the pandemic and shifting to a environment for workers that, again, is not only physically safe but psychologically safe as well. And I think the pandemic really impacted how researchers were able to gather information and regurgitate that information back out to organizations. The next question: describe the socialization process for graduate students in your program. Is the program successful in socializing newcomers and creating job embeddedness? When I think about the socialization process for graduate students in my program, obviously it's an online program. So the first thing that comes to mind is orientation and providing a good overview of the program, expectations within the program and for the university. But then beyond that, I see virtual events that take place, and networking opportunities, invites to those type of events. And then also in the classes, I also see set aside areas in the discussion board for student to student, or I guess I should say peer support, prayer requests, um, just getting to know your classmates, and then again those virtual community networking opportunities, community events, alumni events. Um, Online access to so many resources and getting that information out to students. I think the program is successful in that aspect, as they have the program, the socialization aspect covered, I think the program is successful with getting that information out there to the students. On the flip side, I feel like it's up to the student whether they want that, whether they want to be a part of the community and socialized. So it's up to the student to take part. So I think there's a nice balance in the information's there, the program's successful, and it's up to the student whether they want to use it. The next question is, how can an organization reduce or prevent work family conflict? I think the first step is recognizing that we have a very diverse workforce in today's world. We have a generational span that spans decades, where we have a very aging workforce with baby boomers still in the workforce, and then we have what I think we're calling today, I'm not even sure, Zoomers coming into the workforce who are just graduating college or even exiting high school and going into skilled trades. So we have a very varying our device age, if you will, within the workforce, and then obviously the movement that we've had toward diversity and belonging and inclusion. I think that's the first step, is in recognizing that and understanding the different needs of the diverse workforce and what work family conflict may mean to each group, or nuance, um, or need for the differing individuals. And I think an organization has to get a really good understanding of their specific workforce demographics, and survey them and see, like, where is conflict happening, and then what type of work family conflict is it? Is it a work life balance? Are there maybe personal things going on at home that's affecting the workplace? It can be several or many different scenarios when it comes to work family type conflict. And I think the first thing is the organization understanding the diverse needs of their workforce, and then from there, developing a plan. And the plan has to include things that address those different scenarios, and putting in place things like EAPs for wellness and counseling that not only the employees have access to, but their family members have access to as well. Being flexible with work schedules, um, and allowing for family time, and not valuing long work hours, or things like that. And I think just really promoting a program that values personal time, that values maybe not necessarily long hours, but performance within your set work time and flexibility. And then again, providing access to things like EAPs and wellness programs. And again, just knowing what your organization's workforce needs are, and understanding the diverse needs, and developing a program that addresses all those things. The next question is, imagine you have been asked to develop a performance assessment program for employee development. What techniques could you use to adequately evaluate employee performance as comprehensively as possible? I think in developing a performance assessment program, you got to kind of take a couple of different lenses to look at the jobs that you will be evaluating, or the performances that you will be evaluating. First, kind of laying out and understanding what are the specific tasks associated with the job, right? Those task oriented behaviors, and understanding those first, and what the expectations of the job are, and then the job performance is. But then beyond, job task and job responsibilities, there's also those other things that impact performance for employees. So you have things like interactions with, or collaboration with coworkers, and is there a need there? And if there is, how is that collaboration or interaction going for the employees? Is there a collaborative environment if that's needed? But then also looking at things like outside of work downtime and your employees' behaviors, and are they getting adequate downtime? Is there work family conflict, or is there a work life balance? And then, are there any safety concerns? Are there any risk behaviors? And I think developing a program that kind of looks at each level of those as described in Murphy's List, and getting a comprehensive view of the different things that can impact performance, because it is not as simple as just there's a task associated with a job and you either do it well or you do it bad, because there are different things that can influence performance outside of the ability to do the task itself. So I think taking that comprehensive view of things and using those different roles or those different areas described by Murphy, in that there are so many influences that can develop performance in an organization that wants to set their employees up for success. Will look at those different areas and develop a plan that addresses those areas, and then determines or defines if there's needs in those areas, a need for development in those areas for specific employees. The next question is, what are some possible common organizational constraints, and how can they lead to counterproductive behaviors? So some possible common organizational constraints that come to mind can be things such as cultural constraints, an organization that promotes competitiveness, tolerates unethical behavior, does not address situational challenges, that doesn't value, I'm going to say, employees' contributions and integrity, can lead to counterproductive behaviors such as cutting corners, right, to meet deadlines, um, theft, sabotage, um, adding to additional unethical behaviors. If that's the norm and that's accepted, it's more likely that employees will participate. And then you have also, situational things not being addressed. If there's a situation where there is some type of harassment in the workplace, and again, the organization is not addressing it, that is viewed as the norm, then not only do those types of behaviors become acceptable throughout the organization, it also affects the employee's well-being and performance, and you may see performance reduction. So things like that are things that come to mind when I think about constraints, um, and then why they lead to counterproductive behaviors in the workplace.